Okay, so this principle, team social loafing, I know you were intrigued by it the other day when we started talking about it. I suppose partly because we've both been facilitators and trainers for so long, and there's always this really weird phenomenon. I remember learning this 20, 30 years ago. It does, when a group or team gets to a certain size, and especially as a facilitator, you can ask them the most obvious question and no one in the group will respond. And we'll joke around about it. We can say, what day is it today? And out of 20, 30 people,
you get a couple of people attempt it at the best. I mean, my favourite is every time it happens, you go, how many fingers do I have?
Yeah.
And what do we normally get? You can almost time it for about 30 seconds, it's total silence.
Yeah. How many eyes do I have? And the problem is, and this is what's actually happening, is in teams and groups there's this thing called signal counts, where the bigger the group gets, the more complicated the communication gets. So at around about 6 to 8 people, there's actually a permutation. It's about 6,000 signal counts in communication. But once it gets after 8 to 10, it goes to over 10,000. Once it gets over 12, it's like 15 to 18,000 signal counts. So what's actually happening is that a lot of people are going, someone else will answer the question. Someone else will do it, because they don't want to do it themselves. Well, what's interesting, there's some research that was done, and it was done actually in 1913 by a Frenchman by the name of Maximilien Ringleton. Strange name, but anyway, Ringleton. And he was watching this thing with horses, pulling horses and stuff, and they found that sometimes they'd pair horses together and they would work well. Sometimes the more horses they would pair together actually didn't generate an exponential performance on their growth. So I don't know how he persuaded people to do this, but he decided to do the experiment with people and go, does the same thing apply? And so he found if they did a tug of war and there's one person on each side of the rope, people gave 100%.
Yeah, right.
Here's what's interesting. When there was 2 people on the rope on each side, how much percentage effort do you think people gave?
Well, it would have been less.
Was less, 93%.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
3 people, 85%.
Oh my gosh.
As it started to go up, once it went over 8 people, it actually dropped down to less than 50% effort. So people were basically going, someone else is going to do all the hard grafting here. And so that ended up being called social loafing. And social loafing is this thing is where people go, I don't need to bring my A game. Someone else will pick up the slack. Now, as leaders, this is really, really important, because social loafing is essential. That when you're running teams, the bigger your team gets, if you don't do some stuff as a leader, you will have an increased amount of social loafing. So one of the things that you do is a good metaphor is to consider your team, and they did this in sports, like if there are more people they're putting on a rowing boat, the more social loafing there was, because everyone thought someone else would pull the oar a little bit harder. But one sport where there's no social loafing is, guess where? Relay.
Yeah, okay.
Relay.
Yeah.
Why? Because I've got to show up with my A game. I've been given an expectation. I've got 100 meters, and if I don't do it well, the team gets let down.
That's right.
And so one of the things as leaders is that you've got to really generate very, very clear expectations, but also the sense of urgency that, boy, if you don't come up with your A game, we as a team suffer. And so that's a really, really important part of leadership, is that you will see team social loafing when people are unclear about their expectations or how important what they do is associated towards the outcome.
Well, there you go. There's a natural law at work in your team now. If you're running a team out there, that you were going to see this, it's going to be operating. And the only way to address that is to begin to take clear stock of what are the expectations on each individual, clarifying that.
Exactly, and tie the expectations to the outcome. You see, the person running the relay knows if they don't bring their A game, if they don't run at 100%, there's no way they can win the race. And that's exactly the same urgency we need to provide with our team members. The bigger the team, the greater the chance of social loafing, the more important clarifying expectations and tying that to outcomes is. So there's a principle.
It's a great principle, and it's no reflection on that your people are lazy at all. This is just a law at work.
It's a sociological fact.
It's a sociological fact. So, wow, to know that and then to have this principle is going to be fantastic.
Fantastic.
Good.
Okay.